Yes, sir. This is Brand Basic Code with Booth Talent. Brand, as well. Just a second.
All right.
I want to make sure everything's
So I
working.
take it that was your husband with you the other night?
I know,
I was headed that way and then got interrupted by.
This conference will now be recorded.
Hey, while we.
All right. How can I help, sir?
Am I able to email you my presentation?
Yeah, you didn't go.
I
You
will
didn't
probably
get
be down there.
cobbler.
If you're going to go up here to the podium, just let me know when you're going to turn this light on.
That's leverage for you. See how you
I
took
got
that
no
so
more
thing?
thing.
You thought I was talking about him?
Just say next slide. I
Next
can-
slide.
We're still working through all the kinks for the HDMI port. Right now, this is the test.
It is prime rib and skin.
Yeah, I will plan on. Just do that.
You still can't do for so much.
So do I need to email it to you? Okay. What is that email
You just
address?
plain ugly. I mean, there's no kind of.
I don't see.
All right,
Is
let's
that
go
a-
pay
is that a-
that.
Is that what it was? Yeah, Cassie, yeah.
Yes.
You good?
No, I don't remember.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Huh?
Tyler. It's okay.
You need your time.
Yeah.
I would
I
remember.
know.
It was awful.
So, I mean, you still make it that night.
The last person I need to talk to you. Hey, you got your cover. You won't do that anymore, sir.
What, the clock?
Is that
Yeah.
right there, lock, sir. Let's make sure it's correct.
Is
Yes, we're trying.
that the same clock?
It looks like the same. I don't know.
I believe it is.
Yeah.
Hopefully our IT
we're gonna
person
go
will
with
let me know.
If not, I got
No
others in
idea
the
what
building
it
that
is.
have not been. Tim Clemens, he's already people first, so I think it's great. I think the school, scale hard, as an item, which is costing my coach and things
You have visit Madison. I mean, Madison.
Oh.
like. Something he's having. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
strong.
I think it's.
So I think so.
Yeah, it'll wear out. It'll wear
Oh,
off.
there's so many problems. Like, the wounds really do wear out.
You smell it?
You need to be worried.
No, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. Yep, collaborate, absolutely. Good stuff. We will, after this election cycle, be looking for guidance on ordinance pertaining to signs. I had to make a little decision in terms of the rules. Wise operation, up and up and not up, not down.
Except for all of them missing down there. Yeah, you.
Do you have name?
It was at Madison.
Madison CO.
Yes. You see, people find in our product, they give you terms. Did I get your hat?
Sweatshirt.
It sits up top, so will not accept bribes.
Well, take your.
Thank you.
You could be any.
That's great. Look at the picture. And look, and you're like, that's Jerry Carpenter.
That's what I'm shooting.
I mean, any one of them.
like 70-year-old man.
Yeah.
Cardi looks good. Who doing that one?
That prime rib was perfect.
So what is shrimp?
Yeah, I don't want to love prime rib.
What happened to you, man?
Yeah, you made a mistake.
Okay, fair enough. You missed a good
Oh, I know.
one.
I looked at pictures. I lost.
Okay, how are you, sir? Doing good? All right. Salute, sir.
Thank you.
Catch your name?
Graham Basic with Luth County Renewable.
Okay. So you're here for the view and the screen.
Want me to show you what,
The Bill and
show
Renewables.
you what it is?
Project. Yes, sir.
You got a presentation?
We do.
Are
Yep.
you controlling that or is he get? Okay, all right, great.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It always says that. It's been saying that for years. It's under document, Board documents. Board of Supervisors. Meetings at the very top. I put a 0 in there. I put a 0 in front of it because that's, well,
I know.
it's first
The
order.
solar stop sign?
So that was right.
Yeah, you can go all the way down to the bottom or first order.
So coming
Put
forward,
it
so
down. 6.
that has the.
See that Nichols property?
So your question is. on-
Maybe, yeah.
Coming-
So you want to just drag it to you.
So I can ask, I didn't know they were, yeah, I'm on the others.
Yeah. Just, all right.
Right.
I don't know that I'll ask for it, but maybe.
We want you on up? With the solar. I didn't know they were going.
Okay, thanks, James.
You get it out? Are we good to go? Graham?
Yes,
sir.
So I'll have it down there.
Great. Thank you so much.
I mean, because unless they're gonna take that deal or make that whole change.
Yeah.
Thank you, Greg. That's awesome. I agree.
That's what I was talking about.
Yes.
There's nothing in there. Okay, I didn't know it. Okay. We're in. What's the play? Yeah.
And since.
So did we? Yeah. We're still waiting. Yeah, that's why I said, and they said,
You know, is there any dinner thing?
this is so they try to move around the locations within the region. So like in December, I had Tracy do that. We can choose a positive location. Yeah.
Watch the guys that are behind you. Yeah, watch him. Bad character. He has a real problem with kicking him back to the seat.
This flips up, you said.
We're gonna keep it off.
Quiet in tonight. I'm gonna bring some warm material, some jokes or something. Yeah. I'll have to remember that. Jerry, you loading up your karaoke? That'll work.
All right, folks ready? You got the go to meeting thing doing something? Oh, there we go. That's what it is. All right. Like to call the Board of Supervisors meeting to order. As always, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. We do have a quorum. We do need to adopt an agenda. Anybody have anything we need to add this evening? Anything down there? What do y'all want to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. As always, let's start with public comment. Public comment. Mr. Nichols. Public comment. All right, we'll do it again at the end. Consent agenda. We have minutes from 10:06:21, 10:12:21.
This conference is no longer being recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
We're good.
All right, good, good. And then we have change order number 5, which is the Madison County Administrator Center renovation. And it's for $6,957.98. I believe Ms. Hoffman was absent at one of these, weren't you? Planning Commission, excuse me, excuse me. All right, what do y'all want to do here?
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Approve.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I don't see any special appearances. Constitutional officers, county departments, committees, and organizations. We normally do it at the first meeting of the month. We had several special appearances at that one, so we're going to do it at this meeting. Tracy?
All right. All right, so I've got.
Oh,
I was at the last one, so I'll skip over.
Jerry, grab the microphone so we can pass that thing around, would you? Somebody? Thank you.
stand up here on here.
Take it with you.
So we already discussed Clore's 100th celebration went well. Their new love work was unveiled that day as well on September 11th. Going on now is Light Up the Night, and I'm hoping those lanterns are not dangerous for the Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We had 6,000 page views to our website last month. Hot off the press, our Route 230 from Greene County into Madison is now considered a scenic byway. We've been working on that for a couple years. Yeah. So now we have a continuous routes from Charlottesville into Greene County through Greene to Madison, crossing over 29 onto Gibbs Road and continuing on with 231. It's a big deal. It's a big deal for people, their businesses that are on there. Tourists love it, and takes them right up to where they can go through to Jack's shop and all the view there as well. So it's a very big deal. We'll be including that, and I think they're probably going to have press releases going out. We'll do our own for that too. Quad County Business Summit last Wednesday was huge. Peter Rice spoke. That alone was worth the trip. We had about 100 people there. Great pitches by Jason Summers of Area Acoustics that's in town. It's amazing what's being done just by our small businesses in town and the jobs that they do. Scientists that are doing work for the Navy, all kinds of things going on. A lot of their, Firefly was there too. They were one of the sponsors of the event. And they had till, was it this week or last week for the challenges? It was this week, I think. I haven't heard. They're waiting to see if anybody was going to have any challenges, but we haven't heard yet. So we'll find out for sure. And then we'll hear on that in December. We re-released our fall video. We had some wine tour meetings. That website has gone live. And that's with the Revelation, Prince Michelle, and Blue Quartz, mainly doing senior citizen homes or assisted living facilities where they have their own vans and they bring them in for tours during the day and take them home. And then a way to get them back in, to get them to come back again. At the tourism committee meeting last week, we came up with a December 4th marketing idea. Businesses have till this Friday to let us know if they want to participate in a grand prize so that they get all the information together. We'll have a flyer that goes out digitally and through email. People can come in on the 4th to that business, get entered to win this grand prize, one of which is a stay at Grays Mountain Lodge. Bigger the better, the prize, trying to get as many people there as possible. That's one thing we're doing. And then I had the second webinar again today for the American Rescue Act plan for just tourism. We find out on Friday how much that money is. It goes off of our 2019 numbers, which was $37 million in traveler spending. We don't know. We have no idea what amount of that we get. But they say a once in a lifetime legacy type funding. I'll be working closely with Michelle, Bobby, if he's still here too, probably, with that grant. Half of it, if you get your plan in before December, half of those funds will be released in January. The other half will be on an expense basis a year later. We have until December 2024 to spend those funds. So we didn't find out about that until last week either. So the portal opens at 12 noon and you can submit your plan then as well. Had Economic Development Partners meeting too on Friday. Development meeting September 27th and Realtor Roundtable October 5th. Both went very well. Everybody seems really thankful to get together and to go over issues and to keep it going. So we're going to do it monthly, at least until January. Attended the virtual LEDO, Local Economic Developers Leaders Statewide meeting September 30th. Go Virginia virtual meeting October 1st. Also, the Small Business Development Center is going around to businesses and they're coming up with pathways. So people, high schoolers will know they can go to a job here in town. They can see where they can start, where they can end up without having to leave the county. That's become very effective. They started with Nelson County and Bold Rock. And those kids, they have a full, 7 different career steps. Let's see, I'll have to do anything else out here. Medical cannabis lawsuit is continuing until November 19th. I was on a webinar for that yesterday. Some of the criteria that they're doing. Black Dog Towing is up and running in town, new business. Many Airbnbs are calling. New Airbnbs trying to get started. Everybody's vacancies seem to be doing well. Everybody's got people staying. So
Who's Black Dog Towing?
It is Michelle Powell and her husband. They came to Chamber Mixer last week,
All right.
and I don't bring their information. They're brand new.
That's great.
And yeah, they have a couple other things too. Yeah, we don't have our traveler spending from 2020. Nobody really wants to see it. Statewide visitation declined 26.6%, but travel did happen, and more than 84 million visitors still travel to and within the state of Virginia. And so with travel limited, overnight visitors stayed longer when they did travel, and like we predicted, they wanted to come to more rural counties as evidenced last spring.
See if you can count before they closed Old Rag.
Yeah, and I'm hoping I was wrong. Some of the spending that we're getting, they said no signage on during the first webinar. Today, they said wayfinder signage is allowed. That's definitely a place where I would want something on 231, and then also for Parks and Rec too. So we'll see if we can get that rolling. And there's still free websites available for the Jumpstart program, also through the Central Virginia Small Business Development Center. So I think they've only done 2, and we've got 5 allocated for us.
All right.
I think that's it.
What happened to weren't we getting a trust company at the Lace factory?
No, trust company. No, they've got Fortune 500 companies looking at the old box in, box out building.
All right.
Trust company was going to be, that's the Lester Group that the old Jim Carpenter has got the DIY out there. No, I submitted that for another project.
Yeah.
They said the materials were too expensive, and Lester Group was doing that themselves. It wasn't a business that was buying it. They were going to do it themselves, but they were doing it during a time when all those costs obviously went up. So,
All right. Any questions, Tracy? All right. Thank you, Tracy. Take the
Thank you.
remote or the microphone with you.
certainly.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Jerry, how's Parks and Rec?
Doing good, doing good. We have, our fall sports are starting to wrap up. Right now, we're Saturday night. If you have a mask, please come help scare people at the Haunted Woods. We 2 years ago, we had over 600 people come through the woods, and it takes about 100 volunteers, and we're still recruiting volunteers as we speak. This will be our 7th year of it. I was contacted today by Channel 19. They want to come up and do a story on it, and for a community spotlight story on it. So that's a pretty big deal. And then we also are doing the S'mores of Santa in December. That's our next big things. But I'll talk about the other thing later on. So that's all I got.
Pass it back. John Shearer.
Okay, folks. Well, I don't have a whole lot for you tonight. The biggest thing I guess we could share is if you're looking for a booster shot, you can go to Riva Firehouse Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. You can make an appointment through the VDH website, but from my understanding, you can walk in and get a shot. They got some criteria, 65 and over, long-term care facility folks, let's see, underlying medical issues, or if you're in a working in a high-risk environment. So it pretty much opens it up. If you want to get a booster shot, show up at the Riva Firehouse, and I'm sure they'd be glad to give you one. So obviously, we know COVID-19 is pretty much not a pandemic. It's going to be an endemic, and it's going to be here for the rest of our days. So we might as well just get used to it. So if you're willing to get vaccinated and want to, there's the information for you. And the only other thing I wanted to share, this will be my last, tomorrow I'll come in and turn my keys and stuff in. Had a pretty good run, 3+ years with working with schools, sheriff, fire, EMS, the whole 9 yards, park service. Some things I wish we could have done better, but I do think if you look around, we've really accomplished a lot. So biggest thing I want to do is thank you for your support, your trust, and your friendship. So that's really all I got to share. And like I said, it's been a good run. So hopefully you'll get somebody in here and pick up the ball and keep going. There we go.
Thank you, John. I think John Shearer, when we went to hired John, we were looking for somebody that could bridge the gap between sheriff, dispatch, EMS, and fire. And that time, two sides of EMS. John's come in and he set a very, very high bar working with everybody. The COVID clinics, John, the first thing he'll say is, oh, the volunteers made it work out perfect for the COVID clinics. Those were John's year. It was his show. He got it all together, and it just big shoes to fill. Thank you very much for all your service, John Shear.
Thank you.
So, Noah?
I second that. I appreciate all your help, John. September busy, 140 calls, 9 minutes. I did fill our open paramedic position a couple days ago, so we're now fully staffed. And working on submitting for our COVID-19 provider relief funding. Huge thank you to Michelle. Actually need to head back to the office and finish that right now. It's due at 11 p.m., but hopefully we'll get some money back to the county. And no update on the mental health project, but we're still trucking away on it.
Questions for Noah? Roger. Come on.
For the first time, Noah is fully staffed and John Shearer is not fully staffed. That's up tomorrow. We had an inspection at the transfer station a couple weeks ago, and we passed with flying colors there for the closed landfill and the transfer station. I want to announce that Mooney Frazier has been hired as my replacement. And that seems to be working out real good. Joe's off this week, so we're just trying to get some things done. Pretty much that's all I got.
You know of any more change orders on this admin project? I mean,
well, the one that's today is for the hardware for this door right here. And as far as I know, I can't say that there's not one more, but I'm close to saying it might not be, but it might be one more. We did pay them 50% of the retainage and we still got $50,000 that we're holding on them. So there's still a few things that they still have to do, but we're real close.
Any questions for Roger? Brian Daniels.
Not a whole lot going on. Wrapping up land use. Deadline's November 2nd. Just if you know any landowners in land use, make sure you get the word out to get those back in time for the revalidations and new applications. I do have a staff member retiring. We are currently advertising for that position. If you know anybody, put the word out on that as well. Attended the Commissioner Revenue banquet last week. We were recognized as being a fully accredited office for the third year, so proud of that. Other than that, that's it.
All right. Forgot to announce this is Roger Berry's last meeting with us as well. Roger, thank you for taking care of miscellaneous things forever now. We appreciate it. Michelle, how are things going in the finance office?
I apologize. I'm sorry.
I feel all that, so staying looks fun. Right now we have our pre-audit going on.
Turn the mic down. No.
I didn't do that
Can you hear me now? Okay. Right now we have our pre-audit going on with Mary Earhart out of Waynesboro. Been working on grants, receiving funds in, completing requests, been working with Noah, getting ready to work with Tracy on some of those too. Continue to work with Bobby Fry. He's our financial advisor right now.
I have a meeting Thursday with Bank of America. We're working on P cards right now. We're switching over from our regular credit cards to P cards, and I have a meeting with them to try to make sure that we have everything in place with that. ERP project, working with the project manager, Tom Char, and been meeting with him and other folks here in the county trying to get ready for all the upgrades and stuff going on. But other than that, just paying bills and keeping everybody straight.
Any questions for Michelle? Thank you, Michelle. All right, Mr. Carpenter. We're getting another microphone soon. How's the planning commission?
At the Planning Commission workshop, we had a lively discussion. The amendments to the Commercial Solar Energy Facilities Ordinance are, I think, pretty close to being ready for public hearing. There's still a lot of discussion going on. Let's say the seasonal event activities ordinance and the large scale outdoor events ordinance are definitely still under construction, apparently. There's every time we meet, there are more questions that come up on those. We did have an introduction. Mr. Webb introduced some ideas about this urban development area that's been requested by the town of Madison. There was some discussion on that as well. Other than that, mostly we were just working on the amendments that we worked on.
Questions from Mr. Carpenter?
So Steve, the planning commission will have at least one more meeting on the solar ordinance at the next workshop for the planning commission, right? Second Wednesday of the month.
Yes, that's
It's gonna be
correct.
ready for the joint meeting.
We think we may have that particular thing ready for public input on maybe the 1st of December meeting.
December joint.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got another workshop on the solar ordinance.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay.
That particular one, we are aiming for the public hearing on the December 1st meeting, yeah.
Apparently, there are no cases for us or the planning commission at the next joint planning meeting.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. The next joint meeting would be the first Wednesday in December.
Y'all want to cancel that? Nothing there? There you go. It looks like we're canceling now.
Okay, I'll take that information back.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Sure. All right. We don't have any old business in front of us. New business. The consideration of the rezoning of James and Jean Beal Springbrook Farms LLC request to rezone 91.89 acres from A1 and B1 to M1 with conditions. Who wants to speak from Mr. Beal? Please. Yeah, by all means. Turn it on, I guess.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm James Beal, and I represent the Little Ownership Group of 4812C. When we were in front of you last time, we asked that our application to rezone 4812C to industrial, specifically for solar, be tabled. So we're going to leave it on the table tonight as well. There's a couple of issues that need to be resolved. The ordinance that we're speaking about, Mr. Carper spoke about, and something about the rollback taxes as well. Those issues need to be resolved before we can move ahead. However, some of you might be aware that after the last meeting, we did change solar providers. We went from Yarrowtech to a company called Luth Callan we had worked with briefly before. So Luth Callan representative is here tonight. His name is Graham Basica, and he'd like to address you, introduce Luth Callan to you so you can see what they're all about.
Please.
Great, thank you, Jim.
Sure.
Good evening, Board of Supervisors. My name, as Jim expressed, is Graham Basica, and I'm with Luth Callan Renewables. I would like to first off say thank you for allowing me to speak tonight, and we very much look forward to working.
Just lost power. Keep going.
Good timing. You're right. We do need that solar power. That's a great example.
Get this going. Why don't we just keep on going without the PowerPoint? Please.
I just wanted to say thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I wanted to give a little bit of an outline in terms of which would have been presented here. As Jim expressed, we would like to discuss and introduce, first of all, Luth County Renewables. I am the lead developer for the project. I will be overseeing everything from the origination all the way through construction of this project. We also have some additional members from engineering and also local environmental permitting companies as well, based here locally in the state of Virginia. Moving on from that, we were wanting to discuss as well just some sort of project benefits and give kind of a brief reintroduction, I should say, to the project itself. And moving on, we wanted to discuss the 100-foot setback within the ordinance that is currently in place, and also maybe discuss something along the lines of the rollback taxes. So just to give a quick little rundown of Luth County Renewables, we are a solar development, engineering, construction, procurement, and operations and management company based out of Connecticut, out of New England. We have projects all the way from Maine to New Mexico to Michigan. And in fact, we have 9 or so projects under lease currently in Virginia, totaling around 120 or so megawatts. So we are very familiar with other counties as well within the great state of Virginia. Moving from that, I also wanted to express the fact that we are different than other developers in the sense that we are a fully integrated solar company. A lot of companies come in and they actually just specialize in one certain niche within the industry, whereas we actually have a full scope of work there. In addition, I would like to express, and I wish the PowerPoint could come back on. Any update there, Alan?
He's working on that. Please continue. We'll get it up as soon as it comes back.
Okay, alrighty.
Thank you.
Perfect. I would love to show our updated site plan for everyone to take a look at. We do know that there are going to be benefits both from a county perspective, even locally, even to an environmental perspective as well. And that is something that I did want to emphasize. There we go. Perfect.
All right, what
Thank you,
slide
Alan.
do you think you're on?
We should be around 4 or 5, I believe. If Alan, if you don't mind just going a little bit more. This is something too I did want to express, backtracking slightly and discussing Luth County. We currently have 210 megawatts of past and current capacity installed. As I expressed throughout the country, we have 91 projects currently under lease and or within our EPC departments. And we have 50 plus years of combined experience. In addition to that, we have 200 plus full-time employees ranging from field personnel to upper management, HR, legal advisors, etc. Next slide, please. We already discussed this project. This is a very suitable project for solar. As we are aware, this is cleared relatively flat and it is very close to our substation there with utility. Next slide, please. We discussed some of the brief project benefits. Next slide, please. This is the PV site plan that I did want to show everybody here this evening. The blue there is outlining the solar panels, the arrays themselves, with a good northern, eastern, and southerly natural screening in place. In addition to that, we have that 50-foot buffer there within the dark run. And as you see there on the left-hand side, that is our our natural screening that we intend to plan. This system will produce 15.25 megawatts of AC power, and it is a 62-acre area of development. And speaking upon that 2-row evergreen buffer along the western edge of the property along Route 29, and it's surrounding the Yoder's Market. Next slide, please. We have decided and we have brought to the attention this tree screening that we intend to utilize with the Thuja Green Giants, the Blue Sapphire Cypresses, and the Emerald Green Arborvitaes. These species of trees are fast growing. They can reach anywhere to 20 to 40 feet at their mature height. There's also a consideration for incorporating a more native shrub and bush type of landscaping plan. Next slide, please. In addition to the robust screening along Route 29, we also plan to incorporate a co-use plan, which does in fact incorporate pollinators and certain agrivoltaics. I will get to the pollinators first. This is something that we are proposing for this project, actually planting native pollinator species, for example, the blue wild indigos and the butterfly weeds. What this does is it does increase the ground stabilization and prevent erosion from the project area. In addition, this doesn't enhance the overall property aesthetics of this piece of property as you were to drive down Route 29 and just from an overall perspective view. In addition to the pollinators, we are considering incorporating agrivoltaics. And what I mean by that is a way to preserve the farmland of this piece of property. We have in multiple different markets and projects planted in between the rows certain low-lying crops, in particular, and for example, alfalfa. So this is a way that we can continue to farm the existing property. It's going to be a co-use with an electrical generation facility, as well as preserving that farmland. And there's also the option of looking into a more of a educational experience with the local community through Future Farmers of America, giving them a sense of that farming in place, as well as explaining the more benefits of the renewable generation. Next slide, please. This is that simple outline that expresses our production analysis. This is with the 100-foot setback, and this will produce 30,761 megawatt hours of energy a year. This system has been optimally designed with our software. This takes account climate and other environmental factors. And this system itself annually can produce upwards of 4,000 homes. It will produce the energy to power 4,000 homes, Next slide, please. This is a permitting and development task matrix. This is an outline of what we project to foresee when it comes to our permits. The blue there, that is going to be more local and state, everything from rezoning, and I do apologize, Board of Supervisors, for that font. I saw Clay's face. He was, I apologize for that. That is going to start with our rezoning through to the special use permit, looking at the Virginia siting agreement permits, and as well as ending with our building and electrical permits. The green there, that is going to be our environmental. And what this covers is more federal and state permits, being wetlands, phase 1, environmental site assessments, SHPO, and also USFWS permits. Moving into the lavender color there, that is going to be utility and interconnection. We intend to sell this power to Rappahannock. We are currently in the pre-app phase with that utility. And here, sooner rather than later, we will get to the interconnection agreement and eventually our interconnection service agreement. And the orange there, that is our engineering. And we foresee that being here shortly with design, survey, and as well as civil. Next slide, please. And what this here does is it kind of summarizes that previous slide in terms of timeline goals. If everything goes smoothly, and I understand there have been a couple of changes in terms of time frame here within the last really a couple hours, we intend to hopefully get our special use permit finalized by end of year, going on through our interconnection agreements by March of 2022, with environmental permitting being completed in April of 2022, and our construction start being this summer and ending in the winter of 2023. Next slide, please. And with that said, in terms of reintroducing this project and introducing Luth Renewables and providing a couple of additional benefits to the project, we would like to request that the rollback taxes could be extended in some way, shape, or form, possibly in a waiver. If in fact we were to move forward with this project, we would request that we would have a little more time for us to get our development task in order. And we would like to understand from the Board of Supervisors some possible options with that.
Sean Gray.
Yes, sir.
This is an interesting way to make a proposal. Running the microphone.
Yeah, yeah.
They're backwater.
No, yeah, they're on a boat.
We anticipate next week.
Oh, good.
Mr. Chairman, our ordinance really does not provide a means to waive or extend the rollback taxes. It would be the board's decision as to whether to waive the taxes, which I understand are in the vicinity, neighborhood of approximately between $48,000 and $52,000. With regard to the acceptance of a performance bond, it would seem to me that's just an unnecessary layer of complication. If the taxes are due, the taxes are due. And it would seem to me that unless the board chooses to waive those rollback taxes, which would likely result in several disgruntled applicants who have lost their land use, over the years, we may well hear from those people because they paid those taxes. Now, having said that, if they paid the taxes, there's really nothing that they can do in response to that. And that's really a political decision for this board to consider. But just understand that it is not without some consequences.
I don't see a whole lot of options on this. I think that once the rezoning goes through, it's a 30-day period to pay the rollback taxes. With something like this, I personally don't see a whole lot of. I talked to Ms. Weaver earlier today. She mentioned maybe a bond. There's risk associated with everything. It looks like it's a long, drawn-out process with lots of different permits in there. That's kind of part of the risk take on this. I mean, anybody else have any? What do y'all think on this?
I personally don't think we can waive it, because it's like Sean said, if we do, we're gonna hear from other people, and we don't need that. We didn't grant it for anybody else, so I'm not in favor of it.
No, I'm not as well. I do have one question. The agreement that you were speaking about with REC, is there any reason why they would not agree to the terms you proposed?
Kind of the reasons that if the upgrade costs are too significant for us to actually pay for those, we just don't know that yet. That is something that we are negotiating with them. That is something that they, in fact, have to run their engineering by to understand if their systems can basically meet the demands that we are going to be putting on the grid. So that is why we have a lengthy process with that as well. Typically, electric co-ops are a little slower to actually understand where their knowledge is coming from. But we have already engaged with Rappahannock. We've moved forward with that, and we are looking hopefully by sometime in the spring to hopefully have that finalized. And I hope you do understand the reasons why we would request this waiver. It's mainly due to the Rappahannock engagement. We just don't know if this project will be feasible or not in that sense. At this time, that is as well.
So if they do not agree to your terms, this
It-
project wouldn't go.
Sorry, excuse me. It would mainly be us not agreeing to theirs if the project does not pencil in that sense. Sometimes upgrade costs are 100,000. Sometimes they're $1 million plus. It just kind of depends, and that's the process that we're in currently.
Right, we're not asking for a waiver not to pay, just a waiver.
Yeah.
An extension. We fully intend to pay for these rollback taxes. It's just getting an extension for us to get more development tasks in place.
If we rezone it and we were to give you an extension or a bond or something, and let's say you forgo the bond based on failure to comply, even with Rappahannock maybe not working with you, the property would still be zoned M1, and somebody else is going to be on the hook to pay the rollback taxes. It would seem that it would be irresponsible of us to just keep pushing this down the road until a suitable applicant was to get it. I don't see it. I just don't see it as something that, I don't know. I don't see it as a negotiable type of deal.
Right. Okay. Well, and that's exactly what that's exactly what we're trying to determine, I guess, here tonight, correct? And so that is something that we can definitely explore once we do hopefully move forward with the rezoning here in the next coming months or so, without a doubt.
The other one that y'all are talking about is, let's start with a real simple one on this. Going back to your your picture with the vegetative cover. And Sean Gregg, you're gonna have to help me again. The vegetative covering in the solar ordinance as it stands says that there's vegetative covering planted all the way around the property, not just on 29. It was alluded to by the previous solar company, Yaratech, that they were going to do the exact same thing, just plant it down 29 and around the odors there. Is that just something we negotiate in the special use process? I mean, I would think that since it's in there, that was a recommendation by the planning commission and then passed by us, that the cover goes all the way around the super thing. There you go.
Some of that covers in natural, I think is the idea.
Correct.
Oh, there's already a natural.
There's,
I think it says
It
in
has
the
to be
ordinance
specific.
that it is planted. So, I mean, it's just, if that's an item, then we need to, it's an item. Yeah, I see it back there. And it is, it's all the way around the property.
And it's true that there is some natural, but it's not evergreens back there.
Sorry.
would it be as robust as along 29 with the two double road, 20 to 40 foot tall evergreens? Do you imagine?
I think it's spelled out in the ordinance pretty clearly. What does it say, Mr. Carpenter? I'm trying to remember right off. It is an evergreen. I think the thing that they cited was Leland's. And they're supposed to be planted, what was it? Are they supposed to be 4 foot when they're planted at least?
Yeah, I believe it's specified in minimum height
Yeah,
6 feet.
there you go.
It did not specify by the number of maximum height, but certainly the whole idea is we were looking at height of the panels of 8 feet or less. I think is what we were told last time.
Yes, sir.
So we were thinking in terms of just enough height to buffer that from vision.
Yes, sir.
I don't have the ordinance with me, so I can't remember specifically.
Oh, yes, Sean Gregg's. Yeah, Sean Gregg's working on it. I can see him. What? Same panels that were presented before. I mean, essentially, it sounded like it was what, 4 foot post, 4 foot out of the ground, and then the panels were something like 48 inches by 36 or
Right.
something.
And I'm not positive what the past developer did propose. These won't be any taller than 10 feet though in height.
Oh. All right. All right. While they look, I guess we can go down the path on setbacks. Right now, the way the ordinance reads, it's 300 foot. Like Mr. Carpenter spoke about it, and it appears that we'll be going to public hearing to adjust the setbacks to 100 feet. I don't see any reason why that's probably not going to pass. The side is that is the minimal. Some of the neighbors have on the 230 side have been very well spoken when it pertains to the comp plan and adverse effects of rezoning and of this type of operation. I was thinking something of doing a setback on the 230 side a little bit more significant. I was thinking 300 feet. Another member mentioned 200 feet. What do y'all think about doing something like that just for tech? And Cardi did bring up, and it is good to see in your presentation, that where the creek lies, there's also a little pocket of land that the Beals have that are kind of over in the woods in the corner, and you all don't look like you're crossing that. So it may be it may actually kind of solve itself, honestly. Please.
It's pretty.
Yeah, creative. That's very good. Very good. Yeah. Good. All right.
So I went on the GIS site, and as was in one of your slides, there's a creek that runs through there, and so there's a corner down in the bottom right that looks like you didn't have any panels on it. So the creek runs from Yoder's, sort of parallels the Nichols property, and then goes back over towards Fairground Road. So there it is. So the white part is the property in question for the solar panels. So below, see where the creek goes through there?
Mm-hmm.
So down in the corner, there is nothing planned to put panels down in there. Is that correct?
And so how is this oriented? Is this?
Can you go, Alan, can you go back to his PowerPoint presentation?
It's the actual 100 setback map that he has, sir.
Correct.
On that presentation, it showed it very,
yeah.
very clearly. It's a new room. We're working on it. Next one out. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, see down at the bottom, so you see the creek.
Well, we're getting there. It's just being difficult.
There you go. Yeah, good work.
Right at the middle bottom of the screen.
Mm-hmm.
See a little triangle down there that's on the lower side of the creek. So there's nothing planned for that area per this drawing. So just want to confirm.
Correct. And you mean the most southern east extent of the property boundary, correct?
Correct.
Okay. The reason there are no panels that are included and illustrated here is because we would then therefore have the 100-foot setback and then the 50-foot off of the stream running through there. So therefore we would probably get minimal amount in that area to begin with.
Yes.
And that is also tree covered. So we were trying to prevent any disturbing of and tree clearing in the area.
Mm-hmm. So I've got the vegetative buffer language right here.
What's the vegetative buffer language?
Oh, you want me to read that?
Yeah.
So number 7 says a vegetative buffer shall be installed and maintained around the entire circumference of the facility and its components to reduce the visual impact on the surrounding property owners. In areas where there is not at least 50 feet of native timber buffer, a barrier consisting of a minimum of a double row of evergreens with a beginning height of at least 6 feet and anticipated mature height of 30 to 40 feet shall be planted during the appropriate time of year subsequent to the completion of construction. The applicant shall replace any dead or diseased trees in the buffer. All landscaping shall be approved by the county.
All right. There you go.
So Mr. Nichols' property is the bottom corner. Right?
Yeah.
That's right. Well, all the way across.
It's basically from where Yoder's property is, where it touches
All
the
the way
stream,
across.
all the way to basically to 230 almost.
Yeah, the stream parallels
Or
Mr.
the
Nichols.
His house though is actually down here in the bottom corner. Right?
No, it's not on the picture. It's back at the other end of the property.
And you have to stay 50 feet off of creeks. Is that the
Correct.
All right. So where the property line is, I assume, Mr. Nichols, that creek comes onto you just a little bit?
That creek is the property line according to the survey that was done when we purchased the home. And the boundary does extend from, I believe it's just a little bit to the west of the corner of Yoder's and goes the entire boundary up right to where it goes, where the creek kicks north. And the section of trees that we've been talking about in the southeastern corner there has recently been forested. There's a few tall trees remaining in there, but it's pretty thin. You can see right through it at the moment.
All right. That would pertain to the language that Mr. Yao was speaking about, the 50 feet of hardwoods. If they're not there, then it would have to have the evergreen coverings as well.
I think we need to go out and take a look.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. What do y'all think about a setback on just that side? I want to stick with 100. You want to go more? I think the 100 all the way around that we'll go to public hearing on in December is about right. I'm in favor of extending it a little bit on that residential side.
Maybe the 200.
Yeah, that's what I had said earlier. I think 200, because in a prior conversation, Mr. Nichols did bring up some good points on our comprehensive plan, and I reread that, and I kind of agree. So I think if we went 200, but you don't have to go 200 until you got to where the creek takes off, because then it wouldn't have to be 200 inside that.
It basically has to, I think the cleaner way to do it would be to include that forested triangle and just say it's 200 feet off of the property line all the way along. And it will be irrelevant to you all because you're not planning on developing that lower southeastern corner. But it will just make it a cleaner type of document when it goes through.
So we're proposing 200 feet from Nichols' property. Is that correct?
Well, from the southern corner, the little triangle that has been forested down on the lowest part of the screen, basically all the way to Yoder's, where you're right there. There you go. Where the heck is that thing?
There we go.
I got the shakes, man.
If you don't have your microphone, we have your phone.
Yeah, we used to have a stick. It worked real well. That line.
Okay.
Just from here, and of course, this was already going to be there. So
right.
It's just along his property.
So if y'all would run the numbers on that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I don't foresee that reducing production significantly. We're obviously trying to get as much out of this piece of property as possible, but we also want to abide by all the abutters and ease the minds of the county at the end of the day. So that is definitely something we can consider and look into.
What else do we need to discuss on this, folks?
Well, I have a production question, since you mentioned production. Because to me, you said something really significantly different from what the previous solar contractor said, and it related to the amount of production that we could anticipate out of this facility.
Right.
And I believe you said 4,000 homes as a possible, what we'd supply energy to out of this. I saw a head nod. I think I heard the last guy say, I can't remember the name of that company, it was like 3% of the county's needs could be supplied by this facility. To me, this was a big squeeze for not a lot of juice if we were only going to get 3%. 4,000 homes is not 3% of Madison County's needs.
Right.
Unless I'm doing a much different math than most people are. So that's really important to me.
Right.
Because where this could potentially go is, for some people more than others, but I think for most of us who live and work and around this property and have since they were born, doing anything, and it's not my property, but it seems like our property because it's just center to so much of life around here.
Right.
Devoting it to this use is a considerable sacrifice, for the county.
Definitely a way to preserve it.
But
25 years from now, that's still going to be a farm.
And so that raises another question. But to me, that's easier to stomach if it's contributing 4,000 homes worth of energy.
He was referring to 3% of energy in Virginia is provided by solar. less than
Okay,
50%.
okay. So,
Here, I think it was like 35 or 40%. I think this can provide no more than 50% of everything Madison uses, I think. And I think your architect was talking 30 or 35% of that, not
okay.
50%, but that's the number.
So maybe I misconstrued.
And now granted, these sources, I'm not positive how reliable. This came from our engineering team in terms of their research that they have done on that annual production in Madison. What we estimated is that there's 187,493 megawatt hours in the county, and this would have produced 30,000 megawatt hours annually. So it's roughly 16%.
It's still better than 3. But to your point about ag, I know we reflexively revolt when PEC offers any advice, generally speaking. But they did, and this is maybe too late to make this happen, but they did recommend that we make this an allowable use in ag zone property. And so, you know,
It would certainly resolve the problem with rollback taxes.
It sure
And
would.
it's a consequence of moving this to industrial zoning to try to prevent solar with the rollback tax. Most places that add as usual, you just go get special use permit. So we're in different things.
just asking a question. But thank you, guys.
Well, I guess I had a question. Okay, so you can plant alfalfa in between there. How are you going to harvest it?
How wide are your panels? Like I'm sitting here and I'm thinking the exact same thing. I mean, you realize like an average size cutter is 10 feet, tractor 8 feet. I assume hitting your panels is out of the question. I'm real good at hitting fence post. It happens.
Right, correct, of course. Around 15 to 20 feet is the average spacing in between the rows themselves.
Wow.
10-foot tall panels.
So there's no provision for less than 20 feet between panels or whatever?
In terms of, are you asking?
I mean, that is something you're proposing for this in this instance, as opposed to your normal.
No, that is a standard width in between panels.
Really?
At 15 to 20 feet, yes, sir.
Oh, all right. All right. Any other questions for these folks?
I have a question. So that 15 to 20, is that center panel to center panel or from one corner of a panel to another corner of a panel?
So that'll be how a solar system is set up, and it's basically in racking. And that racking is an extended plane, if you will, and it's in between those planes, aka the racking itself.
Between where one ends and one starts, the space between is 15 to 20 feet, or the racks start and stop and there's overlap off the racks, decreasing the space between.
It's the racking itself. The panels themselves are butted up next to each other.
So there is no.
That's correct. That's essentially what he's asking is, are you considering the panels racking, or are you considering the posts that are mounted on as racking?
It's all the same. What we do is how we install a solar system is we actually drive piles and our ground screws into the ground. The racking is that, and the panels sit on the racking itself. So it's all the same in a sense.
So between the rows of solar, it's 10 to 15 feet.
Yes.
Between the row panels, the row panels.
Correct. Rows,
I understand
racking.
that, but where you're measuring from makes a difference. So you have your rack, panel sits on, does the edge of the panel extend over the rack, or does the edge of the panel go to the edge of the rack?
It extends over and it's in between. So it's
You're
not center to
measuring
center.
between the racks, but the panels extend over the edges, so the space is much smaller than the space between the racks that you're saying. It's not the same.
That measurement is not center to center at all. It is the physical space in between the rows of the solar panels.
Do you have a picture of that in your slides?
Yeah. I mean, if we go back to the site plan, if you don't mind. So the spaces in between blue, that would be that 15 to 20 foot spacing that I am referring to.
These panels, are they moving or are these static?
So it depends on our system. In this case, this will be a fixed system. It will not be a tracker.
All right, here's my description. This is a solar panel.
Mhm.
Are the solar panels touching or real close to each other, or is this 20 feet like you've stated?
The solar panels themselves are touching, but it's on a racking system that is spaced 15 to 20 feet. All of the panels themselves you can think of as highlighted in the blue, and the spacing in between is what I'm referring to in that 15 to 20 foot spacing.
How much acreage in between the panels do you intend to go ahead and put out on?
I would have to run those numbers. I'm not positive off the top of my head.
All right.
So a tractor runs underneath of the panel.
It would run basically in between, if you will.
I don't think we're accomplishing anything here at all. I really don't. All right, other questions?
And I would love to maybe express a little more on the co-use plan at another time. I can bring you some documentation and we can kind of discuss those options if you would be interested.
Excellent.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, sure.
So any of these questions, if you could capture a response, because we as staff are going to be going through some different things to try to get this ready as a staff report ahead of the December joint hearing.
Right.
So that would be crucial. So if there's any additional questions that'll funnel through me, we'll get to you.
Okay.
Vice versa. You've heard some of the questions tonight.
Okay.
We need to get those specifics, but I think we have some time to work through that the next month so we can be ready for the public hearing.
Okay.
So you have my card. Just feel free to please email.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Alrighty.
No,
No, go ahead.
All right. Any other questions for this gentleman? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time this evening. We really appreciate it.
While we are talking solar, there's a couple other items that are coming up. It appears there's two options that the state has allowed us to tax solar. It's either a revenue sharing agreement or it's through machinery and tools. Mr. Gregg has informed us earlier that if we pass the revenue sharing resolution or ordinance, then we are bound to that. Instead of having the option, it would appear that we need to run some numbers, and Mr. Daniels back there working with Mr. Weekly say they can run some numbers and try to figure out which one behooves the citizens of Madison a little bit better. Mr. Gregg, what else do you have on this specific topic?
Nothing particularly, Mr. Chairman. The options, and it's interesting, this is a favored area of our legislature. The assessed value of any solar development is given an 80% discount by the state in terms of taxing under the machinery and tools tax exemptions. And then recently in 2020, the General Assembly passed a rule that basically says that if a locality passes an ordinance with regard to what they call revenue sharing, for lack of a better term, under that circumstance, the utility would be required to pay $1,400 per kilowatt hour to the locality. So what Mr. Damon was doing is running some numbers to determine which is the most economically beneficial for Madison County. And we should have that information in the next couple of days.
And hopefully we can get those numbers by the next meeting in November or so. Does that seem realistic to you, Brian? Because then we can go and we can proceed. If the revenue sharing is the direction that we end up choosing, we could proceed potentially to public hearing on that ordinance.
And Mr. Chairman, we got just for a sample, not saying we're going to plagiarize, but Ligon did send me an example of Westmoreland's revenue share ordinance. So staff will kind of use this as a working model to see if it's applicable. So yes, if the desire is the first November meeting or second November meeting, please, whichever one you decide, we will meet that. We also need to have some touching base with VACO as well. They circled the counties. They have some thoughts behind that. Who put forth the revenue sharing comparison between that and machine and tool tax. So we can definitely turn that around in November for you, sir.
Sound fun for everybody, so we know what we're doing. And then just as a point, it appears that we probably are going to go back, and the planning commission is working on it diligently, but we're pretty close to a commercial solar ordinance amendment, and potentially that will be at the joint meeting in December. Does that sound factual?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
We have any other questions on this? Comments, thoughts? Missing anything?
I'm sorry.
All right. Thank y'all. Virginia Housing Resolution, Mr. Weekly.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. At a prior meeting, we had Mr. Robinson from what is now known as Virginia Housing come to speak to us. Just for a point of context, Supervisor Yao made us aware of some potential revitalization type of funding, not only tied to a housing component, but it could be also tied to non-housing. So they came and gave a presentation. The board had a desire, let's get started in some area. So what that led us to was suggest the villages of Banco and the villages of Criggersville as potential areas of revitalization for the county. The only area really in Banco, this is any slight of any business or property owner, that it could help would be a prior business, as we all know. And for those of us who were patrons of the Greystone Convenience and Appliances, that's an area if the property owner would like to take advantage of this funding. If the board looks to pass this resolution tonight, it would open. We like to think those businesses will be long-standing, but it's just a mechanism, sir, to provide some funding for either housing or non-housing opportunities. We did pass this resolution, as you see before you today, through Virginia Housing, who passed it through their council to make sure it kind of passed their sniff test, because that's who we're going to be applying through should you want to seek any funding, or a landowner could do that. So this resolution, I feel, meets the goal of getting started. If you'll bring it back, sir, to the first page. So basically, it's looking for board consideration and/or action to pass a resolution that would allow Virginia Housing financing for projects within those two corridors that I just spoke of.
All right. Questions for Jonathan? Comments? All right, I got one comment. Otis Weaver's in this.
He's
area.
in that village of Banco, but he's doing well.
Oh, yes,
Todd's
and
Garage
he's-
doing well.
He's third generation at least. And the word blighted just kind of jumps out at me, and I don't know. I don't want to call Otis blighted.
Yeah, this is boilerplate, and that's why I really didn't focus on every word within the resolution, sir. So I'll take that heat if Otis calls you. But it's really thinking of areas within that. So like the former Greystone store, which I remember well growing up in the schools, that's when things were thriving in that area. So it's just an opportunity to help them. So we use the boilerplate template, plugged in some of our language. Blighted was not our plugged in language, but this is their template, sir. But I'll take the heat from Otis.
All right.
You can share it with me. He's been cussing me since I was a youngster. So.
That's right, everybody
He's
else.
been advising you. He's been advising you.
Telling you.
Okay, yeah.
And there was a cabinet shop or something going in, or was operating the mill at one point. So I'm not sure if that's still there.
He's still there.
We just want to make an opportunity if business owners want to take that advantage of some additional funding, which is good for the county as well.
Sean Gregg, do you see any negative on this? All right, what do y'all want to do here?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve resolution number 21-22.
I second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? not blighted. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. There you go. Mr. Weekly, tell us about the Hughes River lease agreement and deed of easements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you're well aware, we're well underway. A lot of time and money and energy spent on the radio project. And when you need to seek new tower sites, you have to go through that process, site selection, obtaining lease agreements and/or deed of access or easements for that. The property that will ultimately site Hughes River Tower site, so that's out in the Nethers region of the county, lovely area. That's where this tower site is located. So before you tonight, and it's also been reviewed by Mr. Gregg to form, as you have here tonight, to approve 2 lease agreements and then 1 deed of easement. So on the lease agreement, that is for the tower site itself. Upon approval and executing of the lease agreements, there are 2 parties in there. They would receive an $800 per month lease payment to them, regardless of location of other equipment on that tower site. If there is any co-location of equipment, so any kind of revenue stream that the county will receive, so if there's a telecom company or whoever wants to locate on that tower and the county receives revenue, there is additional language in those lease options. If you'll go up, sir, keep going, and I'll explain. Basically, any revenue, they are entitled to 12.5%. So a total of 25%, but it's 12.5% to each party. So that's, the leases are standard $800 per month lease. And if you get any revenue, then in addition, you'll have to pay 12.5% of the revenue received. So those are the lease agreements. And then the deed of access, as you know, that's a very important item, needs to be recorded at the courthouse as well. That gets you to that site. And I believe there's VOF language in there because where that easement traverses to get to that tower site. So that's the background and information. I'm prepared to try to answer any questions the board may have.
We have questions for Jonathan.
Well, Mr. Chairman, let me say right up front, I will abstain from any discussion or a vote on this because Tiffany Grant is a cousin with family, so I was abstaining.
All right. Mr. Gregg, you have anything to add on these?
I do not. Everything appears appropriate.
Brian's been working on these for a long time. Brian and I went up there and actually walked up the mountain. It is very scenic. It looks like this is just the direction to go and the step we're at. It's looking like construction could potentially start on this site. I think it's January or February.
2 to 3 months after execution of the agreement.
That's what it is. Y'all have any other comments, thoughts? What do we want to do?
And I just have a quick question for Mr. Gregg. If they're looking to pass this, do they need to do each lease agreement separately by naming the party, or can they approve lease agreements as presented and deed of access easement separate? What is the preferred?
It would be cleaner if we did it.
Can we do it? Can we do it as one motion, but the Hughes River Tower Site lease agreement with the grants, the Hughes River Tower Site lease agreements with Mr. Bouton, and then the deed of access easement with Mr. Bouton?
Sure, that would be fine.
Carter can't make your motion because he's already backed out of this. So, Mr. Chairman, now help me with this. I move to approve the lease agreement, Hughes River Tower lease agreement to the Bacons, the grants, or Tiffany Grant, Evan and Tiffany Grant, and the who's the access through?
Bouton.
Deed of access through to Baton.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
And I abstain.
Got it. Thank you. Sorry. All right. Blue Ridge Cigarette Tax Board appointment. Now, I'm so excited tonight. We get to finally appoint you to something. This is great. You willing to be on this board? With Jonathan as your alternate?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Weekly, what else do we have on this?
I was waiting for a cartwheel or something. No, I appreciate Mr. Daniel's willingness. Just for full clarity, he's not receiving the invitation cold. We talked about it earlier. He's willing to do that. The makeup of the board, they had their first meeting today. I did inform them that the board be taking action tonight as a primary and alternate route. That's what I would suggest is BD on the primary, myself as an alternate. The MOU that was originally passed that allows for one member and then an alternate, you just have to name that to them and they vote to approve. They will look to have another meeting in December. Today, they established who their administrators are or is. They're doing it through the planning district unless they later on hire someone. But they'll have a lot of good information in December. They'll have their stamp coming out soon. And any language we need to get out to vendors. So appreciate Brian's willingness to do that. And I'm here to support in any role because revenue is my business as well, but it's definitely well suited for the fine gentleman in the back.
Do you have any words of acceptance?
I appreciate
That's the way.
nomination.
I would add more fun if you weren't here. All right.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we appoint Brian Daniel as the primary and Jonathan Wickley as the alternate members of the Blue Ridge Cigarette Tax Board.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, BD. Mr. Carpenter. No, different one. The other Mr. Carpenter.
One Jerry Carpenter.
I'll come up.
I was gonna say there's another.
Madison County Parks and Rec subdivision proposal.
Yes, Madison County Parks and Rec extremely excited for our next new project. We're hoping for a playground that will be accessible and inclusive with a water education zone, basketball courts, tennis, pickleball. And we have been in talks with the Washington Capitals for a grant from them that will provide a new inline hockey rink with the Caps logo on and everything. The Caps will provide equipment for our schools to be able to have hockey in PE classes. They will also provide players to come up and do clinics. And they will also, when it comes open, they'll bring up players and staff for a grand opening along with TV, media, and everything. So, yeah.
What else? Keep going, Derek.
Okay, so part of this would be from the school come to us, and they have a ESSER grant of $300K that they would like to put towards the water education zone and playground project. We were told that in order to do that, that part of that land, which is about 3 acres, would have to be in the school's name, the property of the school. I mean, what else do you need? I mean, any other questions?
This is a project that Lindsay and Jerry, and also working with Anagram at the schools and her staff, have kind of come up with. It's been passed by the Parks and Rec Board to ask the Board of Supervisors if they would apply for this subdivision of property so that they can use, it's either the ESSER 2 or ESSER 3 funds.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hopefully somebody knows. Is it 3? It's essentially to use these funds for something that's not, and this is Anagram's comment, and I think it's a good comment. we've invested a lot in infrastructure, like parking lots and facilities like the primary school are great for kids. High school nobody really knows that we did anything. This is something that potentially could last for a long time in Madison County and benefit a lot of kids and education and sports and all kind of stuff. The funding component of this is where the challenges come in. Anagram saying that she'll put $300K towards it is somebody putting their money where their mouth is, which is pretty crazy. It's a good project. It does have some issues. I don't think that I personally, sitting on the board, am ready to ask the planning commission to go through this subdivision process. My recommendation is that we appoint a committee, and Cardi and I are on the PRA board, so I think that it would be us, Jonathan Weekly, Jerry and Lindsay, and then Anna Graham and whoever she sees fit to kind of vet this whole process out. There's a lot of steps. This is a big project. There are big numbers associated. If anybody wants to get into making money, go into playground design. Ridiculous. That's kind of the direction. It's an exciting project.
Yeah.
It really, really is.
I think it really would bring a lot of, especially the hockey rink and the Order Education Zone, will bring a lot of people into the county. We're not going to charge any of the kids to put a playground on the Water Education Zone. It'll all be free. It's somewhat modeled after Rockwater Park in Culpeper. Very similar to that. So.
Yeah, this is a tremendous vision, Jerry. I appreciate you and Lindsay working with the school system on this, but we're looking at what, 4 or 5 year
Probably, yeah.
To have this come to fruition, probably.
Yeah. So
it's a long-term play. Does it work? Would it work for the board to have us start as this committee, see where we can start to hone some of this project and direction? The question is about, and Mr. Weekly is apprehensive and rightfully so, even though the property would be owned by the schools, transferring the ownership of the property comes with some associated costs and issues with it. Even though the taxpayers still own everything. This needs to go be vetted and worked on by a little bit bigger group, and they've set a great foundation for us. We just need to kind of keep on going since it is a very large project.
Yeah.
Does that work for everybody? Yeah. Well, see if we can get some people together, and you mind?
No, I don't mind. Mooney, maybe.
Yeah.
Get Mooney since.
Chris Artella has expressed some interest in it too.
Exactly.
As far as the hockey thing, so.
Bring
Okay.
some people together.
Yep.
Chances are some of this should be on our CIP list. It kind of goes right with it. Do we need a vote on it?
Yeah, I would do this.
All right. Okay, thank you. All right. Who is most creative with motions?
What do you want to call this?
Motion to appoint.
I guess he's looking for like. what's the-
Yeah, what are they doing?
Form an advisory committee to explore the development of this
Blue Ridge Park.
park.
Educational water facility. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I don't want to limit it to just the educational water facility.
No, I just think that's a funny.
Yeah, it says in here, Kevin, community playground and water education zone.
Mr. Chairman, I move to appoint Mr. Jackson and Mr. Yao to the advisory committee to explore the, what'd you call it, Cardi? The
Community
community
playground
playground
and
area.
water education.
Water Education Center being considered development between the county, Parks and Rec, and school system.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Further discussion. Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Jared.
Thank y'all.
All right. This one's gonna start. Urban development area. Mr. Weekly?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So a little bit of background at a Yeah, I've got this. There's no visual. This is a terrible visual up here anyway. But the urban development area, a little bit of the lineage, at a past town council meeting, some of the takeaways Supervisor Yao came back with is that the town was going to send a letter requesting some discussion around urban development area. I did receive that letter. The letter requested that town and county staff, can you all hear me okay? Town and county staff get together to discuss urban development area. Ligon, Tracy, myself met with Maynard and Willie from the town to see what type of discussion they want to have. Ultimately, this is viewed as if they were designated a UDA, they being a town, it can open up some funding source, particular grants, whether it's VDOT, roadway projects, walkability. Those are things that fit higher density areas. But sidewalks seem to be the main discussion point from both gentlemen, with the idea of sidewalks could be extended south towards, this is the Business 29 area, south towards Poplar Ridge, which is an apartment that exists at the southern part of town, or southern part of Business 29, excuse me, it is in the county. And as far as north to the post office, and that was basically the purpose of the discussion. I asked the question, were we looking to annex or any of that? It was no, that's not the request, but I did ask. The request or consideration was made to us for the county to amend their comp plan. We can have that discussion if you want, but first, if we're going to talk comp plans, the town should really consider amending their comp plan to designate the town as a UDA, which is the acronym for Urban Development Area. Urban Development Area is a high density area, housing, mixed use, things of that nature that do not naturally occur in the county environment. Doesn't mean it can't. I wanted to bring it before the county tonight because I need direction. If there's anything on the county side, you want me and staff to put some energy in. But right now, the only request and the purpose from the town was, would you consider amending your comp plan to consider the town as an urban development area? Quite frankly, I think if you're looking at steps and recommendations from me, I would say first step, town amend their own comp plan. The county will be sometime in the near future taking up their own comp plan for revision. There's no rush on this from the county side, in my opinion. You could always do a resolution of support of the UDA concept for the town. They can file that with their application, just like any letter of support would come in any other fashion. And then if the county desires to have some UDA designated areas, take that up at your comp plan revision. It's the perfect time to do it, not to, amend here and there throughout the year, right before comp plan review and ultimately adoption. So that's some background. But since it's been a discussion, it's been at the planning commission level at the last workshop. But it is for urban development area, high density housing, mixed use type of things. So if the board wants me to get involved with that, I need some direction from you all. But for right now, I think there's no rush. And the steps I outlined were my recommendations as next steps for urban development, and how it fits the town and the county. And I'm not sure if Mr. Craig, if you have anything to add, sir.
And I'll give the microphone.
The only thing I would add to that is, you'll recall the discussion we had with the representatives from the Virginia Housing Development Authority. And my sense was that the board is considering using this tool to help some of those areas that, could use some economic revitalization. And one of the tools that you would use to do that is these urban development areas. Urban is a bit of a misnomer in this situation. These urban development zones, they exist in Orange, Virginia, which is, as you know, I'm from those mean streets. But the idea is, it's become almost a term of art. It really doesn't mean what people would think it would mean. The advantage, it seems to me, of amending the comp plan all at once is we get some community input from the affected areas. We hear from the stakeholders. One of the obvious things we would want to do is make sure that if we are including people in this urban development area, that the people who live in those areas and the property owners in those areas actually want this to happen. Those are my only comments.
Well, I would think, Mr. Gregg, with that said, that the town would be taking the lead on this and deciding on that, right? They should have some public comment perhaps at their town council. So I think I did call the mayor the other week, and he said that the comp plan for the town was finished about a year ago, but it does not speak to UDAs specifically, which it has to, so they have to amend it. I suggest that Clay and myself, or one of us, will be at the next town council meeting, and we'll go in there, and I'd like to ask him, is there a time frame? Is there a time frame on the projects that you all have in mind right now to get this UDA thing done? If it is, then you guys do it. And then
when is it? And y'all are going to have to help me. Every year they apply for the sidewalk money from VDOT. Every year. And is it smart scale? It's not. Which one is it? Does anybody have any idea? There is some program that VDOT apparently adds sidewalks. I think it's in the spring when they apply for it, like April maybe. I think that's probably the timeliness, but I'm with you 100% that if this is the path, they need to be leading the charge.
And if the
Let's do a
board would like them
resolution
to come to a meeting, please let me know. I'll be happy to reach out to make that request so they can define. But all we have right now is a sidewalk request. I'm not saying that's big or small. I'm just saying that's all we have as a request. But
I mean, why don't we work on getting a resolution that can be at our first meeting in November in support of the town being their own UDA, designating their own UDA.
you want it before they would amend their comp? I'm just asking.
I mean, we're going to be talking about this for a while if that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate. Resolution to support them.
Let's do it. Anybody got any heartache with us?
And then then after they amend their comp plan, then it might be appropriate for us to come back and amend ours.
I think we're right at the 5 or 6 year mark.
You're close.
So
Like
we-
2018, I
Yeah,
believe is when it
there
was.
you go. So they're going to come back into it. Chances are we'll be right on time.
Yeah. We're here to help our
Do you want a
town.
resolution in
Whatever.
November?
Yeah, resolution, letter of support, something of that nature.
Okay.
Everybody good with
I
that?
have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Tracy, are they working with you with this just to, I know there's many mixed uses, there's a lot of programs they can take advantage of. Are they asking your input for development?
I requested actually their current ordinances to see where they're on this use.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I wish there was more of a creative, or even a vision more than just sidewalks. This could be a good opportunity for the town.
Yeah, I mean, I think some engagement is needed. I know that I hear speak for myself. I'm just giving you feedback on what was requested of me. I think there's other discussions. I think we need to start having a mixed use discussion. Things like that we heard at our Realtor Roundtable. These are things that can work. So we certainly always extend an invitation to work together on things. I think we need to. So again, this is more on agenda for discussion of where you would like for me to spend my efforts. If it's inviting town folks, if it's setting up a joint meeting for the purpose of, I'm happy to coordinate those things, but
They need to lead their vision.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly. Maybe that's a liaison question.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to assist in any fashion, but it does seem like they're the driver to help us.
Let's get a resolution, a letter of support for them. Maybe that can kick the ball rolling, and at the next town meeting, Carter or I will convey the message that we are excited to watch which direction they go, and then how we fit into the puzzle. Does that work? Hopefully with good timeliness. All right. Anything else on that one? Information and correspondence.
Yes, so I have a few things. Tracy already spoke of the byway designation, so I will send that around to the board. Thank you, Tracy, and whoever, I'm not sure who else was tasked, but thank you for your involvement with that. I know these things take some time, but it is good as a designation as far as a draw to this county. I did send a letter. I believe it went out to the board. If you haven't seen that, let me know. A letter to Superintendent Kenny. There was a request by Superintendent Kenny. The Blue Ridge Committee was set up back in, and forgive me, I want to say 1992. I know it goes back to George Allen days, for the purposes of the 8 counties that make up the park to have relations between the two. I've been on that. I believe Mr. Yao is on that now. I see it as a good thing. So I polled the members, including the citizen members, and all are unanimous on that. So I basically sent that as a letter stating Madison's position of wishing to continue that. And he called to thank, for the superintendent to find importance of it. I think that speaks for who you have at the post up there, and also their willingness, to have good feedback of the counties. Obviously, it's easy for him to get any messaging across when you're meeting with the counties at once. But I think it's a good group, and I think Madison should keep their voice at the table since over 30,000 acres of Madison land is in the park. So that's an update. And I also took an opportunity to kind of pitch our radio project again to them. Hey, we're going to have this huge river site. Can you please let me know if you would like to co-locate or use that site? So that's to be determined. The Blue Ridge Cigarette Tax Board, we just talked about that, so really nothing more. I'm going to pass a lot of my cliff notes off to Brian. No joint meeting. We'll put an email out to both Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors, as well as we need to push that out to the press. So our normal press corps, so they're aware of that. And that's all I'm tracking right now for information, other than we will continue on with our development committee meetings and our realtor roundtable. I think there's a lot of value of that.
Yeah.
I think from a staffing point, it helps the left to know what the right's doing, and hopefully it'll help us work up a better staff report when it gets to you. There's a lot of less lifting. But I've learned a lot, and I think communication is the key to success in any of it. So we're going to keep that going. I'm going to go ahead and throw a little foreshadowing or we're going to run down. We have a request about a small RV park. That's going to be an item of discussion, and a potential Airbnb. So the game is get VDH, get VDOT at the table. If it's an RSA service district, we'll do that.
Good.
Tracy, Ligon, Jamie Wilkes, and myself. So we will continue on. That's all the information I have, members of the board.
That's what you should be doing. That's
Yeah, that's a
exactly,
good
that
one.
is absolutely great. Gracie brought it up. I noticed it the other day. We need to get Johnson to send a letter to VDOT. I want to make sure that everybody hears this, so VDOT will do the exceptional work they normally do. We need flashing lights on the Fairgrounds Road side of the flashing stop sign on the Pratt side of Fairgrounds, coming from the elementary school.
Yes, sir. I will send that either tonight or first thing in the morning.
Thank you.
I will say, Ms. Shepherd seems to be very responsive. I know it's me coming back as a staff member, which I love, by the way. You still have to pay me. But very responsive. We're still waiting on rumble strips on 15 North, but she will be here, or a member of VDOT will be here at our next meeting. But I won't wait until then. I will send that. But if there are any other items you're tracking, I can give it to her in advance, or just be prepared that they will be here to give their quarterly report at the next meeting.
Sure. All right. Anybody else got any good information and correspondence? Let's do public comment again. Mr. Nichols.
You want me to go to mine?
Yes, please. We don't need it, but people online are probably watching. Maybe one person.
So you all know what I'm here for. We're talking about the proposed change in zoning for the Beals property. And I had a whole thing written, but I mean, we've hashed this thing out so much. This whole project is trying to put a square peg in a round hole. And it's not like we just change the zoning and they do it there. They change the zoning and we want to change the setbacks. And we want to, I know we talked about the ordinance been changed for the, where they're going to put their vegetative buffer. And now they want to defer taxes. And the goalpost just keeps moving here. And even our Piedmont Environmental Council that loves this kind of stuff has said that this site is terrible for this and are really concerned. And as much as the presenter, can speak about putting alfalfa or whatever other plants underneath this thing, at the end of the day, we know it's once you put those structures up there, it's not a viable farm to produce a crop. It's going to end up getting mowed like a lawn. I think the biggest concern with all this is that I've really been thinking about it. As much as we've put effort into our comp plan and our Highway 29 development plan and how we want to see it all there, we're going to take a lot of potential sites away for other businesses to come in there, and we're going to tie it up for a very long period of time. So, we're going to have, this wonderful expansion they want to do here at the park and put hockey in there and water pad and all that kind of stuff, which is great. And the cameras are going to be there and show off, what we're doing in our little rural community. And there's going to be a power plant in the background. And all these businesses that we like so much, we like Yoder's and Cake Crumbs and the Noel Niche and the veterinary clinic is up there all along 29 where they ought to be. And we're going to take away from potential sites for that. I know the applicant has tried to sell the property in the past because they're not really interested in being here. They just want to monetize it. Be way better used for how it's zoned. And so, for all this, and we keep hashing it out, all those things benefit our community, in putting in, these businesses and helping to support those folks who live here and work here and want to live their life here. And I think that Mr. McGee made a wonderful point when he said that we're potentially sacrificing that. So somebody who doesn't live here in a foreign corporation can sell some power and take the money somewhere else and not provide any employment, not provide us a service that we use, not take down our cost of power, and it's just there. So for all the discussion of property rights and everything, they don't have a right to do it unless you tell them they do. And it goes against everything else. It really is a square peg in a round hole, what we're trying to do. I think it's okay to tell them no. There's lots of potential for them to make money with that site in other ways. And it doesn't take anything away from them. But certainly by saying no to these folks for this does support our county and our interests. I mean, if you guys approve this thing, it will adversely impact our property value. I already looked at it. I already know it. It's a problem. And it will adversely impact the potential development of our plan. So I'm asking you to please say no. But if y'all have any questions for me, I'll talk to you. Otherwise, I'm going to go sit down.
Do you have any questions, Mr. Nichols? Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Other public comments? Other public comment?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to circle back to the Hughes River project and all that, and just want to thank you from the fire and rescue community, all that. I know you guys know how important it is, communications, but like you said, we want to see things out there, we want to see playgrounds, and our tax dollars going to things we can visually see, touch, all that. But just know that that communication that you're approving is a huge asset to the citizens of the county. That radio's got to work. I mean, it's 2021. It's got to work. You push the button, so many things to do. I can get on my phone right now. I can hear a fire truck running a call in Los Angeles, California, clear, but I can't hear somebody call the OC from Nethers on the radio. So I just want to say thank you for pushing that through. I mean, I sat on Route 15 Sunday, back and forth with Brian's dispatchers, trying to figure out how long it would take to get a helicopter for a bad crash.
radios, but just, they're in and out, in and out. So I'm just saying how important it is. Thank you for being proactive with that.
Any other public comment? All right, we do have a closed session this evening. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
I move that the board convene in a closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Sections 2.2-3711A1 for discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, 2.2-3711A8 for consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
I do, just for clarification, A1 should be for personnel matter. So I don't know if we just need to clarify that or not. Personnel matter, or personnel, excuse me. So just, I offer a friendly amendment that the closed session for A1.
To say personal.
Instead of employment, say personnel.
Personnel, yeah.
Okay. 2.2-3711A1 for discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for personnel. Is that how you want it?
That should be
personnel.
Can I second that?
All right, so it's been amended and Dan seconded. Further discussion, hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. There you go. Take a minute.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
We'll see, I don't know.
I did, so I voted in favor. I voted